Ethan was sad and was in a daze all day long. I followed him all the time. In the beginning, he ignored me, but later he started to accept me. I thought I had won his heart, but I didn't expect that things would be completely changed that night. I received Ethan's invitation to go to the hotel, and as soon as I entered the room, he hugged me. After that night, his eyes turned cold and disgusted when he looked at me. Despite my repeated explanations, he still felt that it was a setup by me. Later, I became pregnant and he married me under pressure from Jenny. I always thought that I would move him one day, and the truth would come out one day. But now, I could no longer wait for that day. After Ethan sent Sandy home, he drove back to our home. He was a little absent-minded along the way, and he looked at his mobile phone from time to time. When he got home and found the house was black, he couldn't help but frown. She has a bad temper. She even dares not go home. In the past, no matter how angry I was, I would never stay out all night. Ethan glanced at his phone, but there was still no message. He felt annoyed and took off his tie. Suddenly, his cell phone rang, and the sound was particularly sharp in the quiet night. Ethan hurriedly picked up his phone. When he saw the name Sandy, I saw a trace of disappointment on his face for the first time, but it disappeared soon. Ethan, please help me with the case of my brother that I told you about tonight. I've already asked him to turn himself into the police station. Ethan rubbed his brows, looking a little tired. Don't worry, Sandy. Your brother is my brother. I will help him minimize the responsibility. The next day, Ethan woke up on the sofa. Last night, he was sitting alone in the living room, lost in thought. He looked at the clock from time to time and finally fell asleep on the sofa. When Ethan stood up and saw the untouched slippers at the door, his face was gloomy. Then he took out his phone and sent me a message for the first time. Yolanda, since you don't want to come back, then you might as well never come back. I looked at Ethan and sneered, thinking, I will never come back to bother you again. Ethan washed up and went to the law firm. This was the law firm he and my brother Chris founded together. Not long after Ethan sat down, Sandy walked in with a stack of documents, looking a little nervous. Ethan, you are the only one who can help me this time. With tears in her eyes, Sandy looked pitiful. I asked Alex, and he said he didn't do it on purpose. The road was slippery due to the rain, and his vision was a little blurry, so he hit someone. Ethan immediately helped her sit down and took the documents from her. Is the person dead? Sandy nodded. Ethan's face looked a little bad, and he continued to ask, have you contacted the person's family? Do you have any information about the person? Sandy shook her head. Alex said that the person was hit and flew and just hit the windshield. Her facial features were all ruined. No information could confirm her identity. We have not been able to contact her family yet. Ethan's eyes became more solemn. How fast was Alex driving at the time? Were there any surveillance cameras or witnesses around? He said the speed was no more than 80 miles per hour. It was a country road, and there was no surveillance. It was raining at the time, and there were no one around. Sandy lowered her head, looking scared and worried. Pondering for a while, Ethan asked, are you sure Alex didn't flee or exceed the speed limit? Sandy raised her eyes and looked at Ethan with tears. Ethan, are you doubting what I said? Alex called the hospital right away. The hospital has a record of the call. After confirming that the person was dead, he went to the police station to turn himself in. He is still in the police station now. Seeing Sandy crying, Ethan immediately panicked. Sandy, that's not what I meant. I just want to know more so that I can defend him and try to minimize the responsibility. Sandy threw herself into Ethan's arms and burst into tears. Ethan, you are the only person I can trust now. You must help me and Alex. Hearing Sandy cried, Ethan felt sorry for her. He hugged Sandy tightly and promised her solemnly, Sandy, don't worry. I will find a way to save Alex. After Sandy calmed down, she raised her head and looked at Ethan. There's one more thing I forgot to tell you. The person was a pregnant woman. Sandy's words stunned Ethan. As if thinking of something, he looked at Sandy nervously and asked, where is the location? Sandy said, it seems to be on a country road in Barone City. Hearing these words, I was certain that the victim in Alex's case was me. Ethan was stunned as if something had exploded in his head. At this moment, the office door was suddenly pushed open and Chris rushed in. Ethan, where's Yolanda? She hasn't replied to my messages for a whole day.